Dear students, welcome back to Banglar Shikha Classroom, an endeavor of Paschim Bongo Samogra Shikha Mission under the School Education Department, Government of West Bengal. I am Amit Sen Mojumdar, Headmaster, Jodhpur Park Boys School, Kolkata. And today we are discussing the second part of a very powerful short story by renowned Russian short story writer Anton Chekhov, The Bet. Okay, so in our previous class, we have gone through the plot of the bet, and let's do a recap of that, and then we can do a question answer session of the important multiple choice questions which can be asked in your upcoming exams from the bet. So as you have seen in the previous class, a heated discussion at a banker's party about capital punishment versus life imprisonment sparks a reckless bet. The banker challenges that no one could endure 15 years of solitary confinement, and the young lawyer, he accepts the bet. The conditions require the lawyer to remain completely isolated in a lodge for 15 years with only books, music, wine, and writing as comforts. In the initial years, the lawyer struggles with depression and the harsh reality of isolation. Gradually, he turns to extensive reading, studying subjects including languages, philosophy, history, and theology. Now, the transformation of the lawyer, it depends as he gains profound insights into life, ultimately finding worldly pleasures and wealth completely meaningless. Meanwhile, all these 15 years when the lawyer was undergoing solitary confinement, meanwhile, the banker's financial fortunes, they decline, and he grows increasingly fearful of having to pay 2 million at the end of the term. As the end of the confinement approaches, the banker anxiously anticipates the lawyer's release and the impending financial ruin. He even contemplates murdering the lawyer just to save himself from, just to avoid the 2 million payout to the lawyer. But to his surprise, he finds that in a final act of defiance, the lawyer renouncing the 2 millions in a written declaration, rejecting material wealth and the superficial values of life. So the bet concludes with the lawyer living as a changed man, while the banker is left consumed by regret and despair over the lost years and his own moral failure. So that's the plot summary in brief. Now we will do some multiple choice questions which will be important for your preparation. So the first question is, what does the banker argue about capital punishment during the party? Now here I have quoted the relevant line from the text, so that you can easily locate the line. I would like all of you, to underline these lines, get hold of a, highlighter pen and soil your textbook. Do not leave it in a pristine condition. The more annotations you will be doing on the text itself, it will be more helpful when you will be revising it for your HS exam. So that's why, I have quoted the line, so that I want all of you to open your textbooks and underline these lines, because these are the lines which are important for multiple choice questions. So what does the banker argue about capital punishment during the party? The line to be considered is, capital punishment kills a man at once, but lifelong imprisonment kills him slowly. So that is what the the banker feels. So the correct answer would be, capital punishment is more human. That is what the banker feels. So the correct option will be B. Next, What is the lawyer's opinion on life imprisonment? So the important line here is to live anyhow is better than not at all. So obviously the correct answer will be any form of life is better than death, and the lawyer asserts that survival even in misery is better than dying. That's what prompts him to take that bet, 15 years of solitary confinement, because he believes that survival even in misery is better than dying. How much does the banker bet the lawyer? Now that's a pretty straightforward question. The answer will be 2 million. And the banker impulsively offers 2 million to challenge the lawyer's belief, which he regrets later. As you have seen, the banker even contemplates murdering the lawyer because he's not able to uh, pay those 2 millions. How does the lawyer demonstrate his knowledge of languages? So remember, the letter which the lawyer had written to the banker when he was in after 6 years of his confinement. I write to you these lines in 6 languages. So the options will be by writing a novel in 6 languages, by speaking to the banker in 6 tongues, by asking the banker to test his fluency, by writing a letter in 6 languages and asking for gunshots as proof. So the correct option will be answered D, by writing a letter in 6 languages and asking for gunshots as proof. So the lawyer wanted validation of his efforts through recognition of his linguistic mastery. So I am again telling all of you, to open the text and underline those lines, those important lines. I've given the lines, so that you can go and underline them. Next, what does the lawyer claim to despise in his final letter? Despise means hate. So freedom, life and health. These are the 3 things which the lawyer specifically mentions in the letter. He rejects worldly pleasures after years of intellectual and spiritual contemplation. So the correct option will be D here. Next, what does the lawyer do to prove he no longer values the money? So the options are: tears up the agreement, he burns all the banker's money, he leaves 5 hours before time, he donates the money to charity. So the correct option, leaves 5 hours before time. And these action, it breaks the bet and legally forfeits the prize. So again I have marked the line from the text so that you can go and underline. What drives the banker to consider murder? So remember, the banker saying to himself, the one means of being saved is the death of that man. So obviously he cannot afford to lose the money. The banker is financially ruined and sees murder as a way to avoid paying. What does the lawyer's scattered reading in the last years suggest? So remember that metaphor which has been used in the text, like a man swimming in the sea among the wreckage of his ship. So it signifies that he is confused and desperate for meaning, which is option B. So the correct answer will be that the lawyer was utterly confused and desperate to search for meaning. And the metaphor shows his frantic attempt to grasp truth or meaning. Next, how is the lawyer physically described at the end? So I'm again quoting the actual line from the text. He is a skeleton with the skin drawn tight over his bones. So the correct answer will be option B, thin, aged and fragile. This description shows the toll of 15 years of isolation, the physical impact of staying in solitary confinement for 15 years. Next, how does the banker feel after reading the lawyer's letter? Now he was full of contempt for himself because he was contemplating murdering the lawyer. So the important key line which you have to underline in the text is, at no other time had he felt so great a contempt for himself. So the correct option will be regretful and ashamed. The banker realizes his own moral failure compared to the lawyer's spiritual awakening. How did the lawyer experience the world during his confinement? So this is given in the initial in the letter. Initially, he describes how he travels the world through the medium of books. So here he talks about sensory pleasures. He talks about experiencing sensory pleasures of the world through the medium of the books. That was initially. So the correct option will be option C here. He describes hunting, loving and traveling all through literature. Next, what literary device is used in worthless, fleeting, illusory and deceptive like a mirage? So as you know, the correct option here will be that it is a simile, because he compares worldly knowledge and pleasures to a mirage, something that appears real but isn't. You should be familiar with these other options also, what they mean, and you would be able to cite examples from the text, like what is a hyperbole, what is personification, what is irony. Now irony, I might suggest here that the lawyer, he entered into the bet for the sake of 2 millions, and what happens? Ironically, he forfeits his claim. He leaves 5 hours early so that he doesn't have to accept that 2 millions. So this is dramatic irony at its best. Next, these are some higher order thinking MCQs. If you have been able to understand the story, then you can answer these questions. So read the story thoroughly and then attempt these MCQs. What can be inferred about the lawyer's inner transformation over the 15 years? Now, these are the options which I have given in this part of the MCQs. They, they will all appear relevant, and you have to choose wisely. So, option A, he became mentally unstable and lost his identity. Option B, he moved from material desires to spiritual enlightenment. He grew increasingly bitter and vengeful. Option D, he wanted revenge on the banker. Now see, option D is completely redundant, but A, B, C, they have got some vestige of truth in them. So which is the most correct, which is the most appropriate option? That is obviously option B. The key word is spiritual enlightenment. So the lawyer moved from material desires to spiritual enlightenment, as evinced in the final letter. His final letter shows that he has transcended the need for money, freedom or status. Next, what tone does the lawyer's letter adopt toward humanity? So he adopts what kind of a tone does the letter have towards humanity? The letter is full of deep thought, but he clearly looks down on humanity's shallow pursuits. So the correct option will be reflective and disdainful. So now let me read some of the lines from the letter, so that the answer becomes clear to you. And I despise your books. I despise wisdom and the blessings of this world. It is all worthless, fleeting, illusory and deceptive like a mirage. You may be proud, wise and fine, but death will wipe you off the face of the earth as though you were no more than mice burrowing under the floor, and your posterity, your history, your immortal geniuses will burn or freeze together with the earthly globe. So he is clearly looking down on humanity's shallow pursuits. And he continues, you have lost your reason and taken the wrong path. You have taken lies for truth and hideousness for beauty. You would marvel if, owing to strange events of some sorts, frogs and lizards suddenly grew on apple and orange trees instead of fruit, or if roses began to smell like a sweating horse. So I marvel at you who exchange heaven for earth. I don't want to understand you. To prove to you in action how I despise all that you live by. I despise all that you live by. So that's his tone. It's clearly disdainful. He's absolutely fed up with the humanity's shallow pursuits and his enjoyment of worldly desires and pleasures. So he's absolutely fed up of all this. Next, what does the lawyer's letter suggest about the reliability of human knowledge? So he says that it's like a mirage. The simile which we have used in one of our MCQ questions. He says, I despise wisdom and the blessings of this world. It is all worthless, fleeting, illusory, and deceptive like a mirage. So mirage, it happens in deserts. It isn't real, but it appears to us. So everything worldly, the lawyer says that everything worldly is like a mirage. It's unreal in the face of death, because death is the only grim reality in life. So the correct option will be, it is deceptive and impermanent. That is the human knowledge, reliability of human knowledge. Now that is primarily one of the reasons why, despite gaining so much of knowledge, he renounces it all. He even he is kind of, we can say he is fostering a nihilism. He's renouncing everything, wealth, even knowledge also. Why does the lawyer choose to communicate his decision in writing rather than face to face? See, this is an important question to ponder upon. He could have told the banker why he is forfeiting the bet, but he decided to write it down in the form of a letter. So what do you think? This is an assumption which you should come after carefully reading the story. The options are: he is too weak to speak, he wants to preserve dignity and control the message, he fears the banker's reaction, he no longer remembers how to speak. So the correct option will be here, and this is very important for your understanding of the story also, that he wants to preserve dignity and control the message. The later, it allows him to deliver a composed, final philosophical statement, and that will be his legacy to the world, not just a reaction which he tells the banker. The letter will be a legacy. People will come to know why he renounced everything he had once dreamt of. Now, assertion and reason questions. Let's discuss some of them. The assertion given is, the lawyer left his confinement before the bet ended, and the reason, he realized that material wealth and worldly pleasures were meaningless. Of course, both are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. Next, here the assertion is, the banker was relieved when the lawyer left early. Reason, the banker had become wealthy by the end of 15 years and was ready to pay. Reason is obviously false. So the assertion is true. Next question, the lawyer demanded novels, classics, philosophy, theology, and scientific works during his confinement. Reason, he wanted to keep himself entertained with light reading throughout his stay. Now, light reading, he wanted to keep himself entertained with light reading only in the first year of his confinement. So the reason here is not true, but the assertion is true. He demanded novels, classics, philosophy, theology, and scientific works during his confinement, but the reason is false, because he read to gain knowledge and understand life, not just to entertain himself. So here, option C, A is true, but R is false. Next, the assertion, the lawyer ultimately left the lodge 5 hours before the stipulated time. Reason, he wished to forfeit the bet and renounce the worldly wealth he had once dreamed of. Obviously, both the assertion and reason are correct here. So option A will be correct. Both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. Next, there is a matching the column question. So in column A, there are 4 statements, part statements: the banker's financial decline, the lawyer's early reading choices, the lawyer after 6 years, and the lawyer's final decision, and you have to match them with their counterparts, correct counterparts in column B. So take a minute to work it out on your own. Okay, the answer will be the banker's financial decline will be A, will be 3, the result of risky speculations and fear of bankruptcy. The lawyer's early reading choices, as you remember, he read light novels and romantic sensational stories in the first year of his confinement. So B will be 4. The lawyer after 6 years, you remember, he wrote a letter to the banker, that gunshot firing, that I am become, a linguistic master of 6 languages. So the C will be 1. C will be matched with column B, option 1, mastery of languages, philosophy and sciences. That leaves us with D, lawyer's final decision. It's option 2 given in column B, voluntary renunciation of 2 million and rejection of worldly life. So these are all the different types of MCQ questions which can be asked from this topic, and I have covered them all: assertion reason questions, matching the columns, and a host of other MCQs. Some of them requires a devoted reading of the text, which I hope all of you will do, because it's a wonderful story. It's a very powerful story. Even if it was not included in your syllabus, I would have recommended all of you to read this story, principally because it's not just a story about a reckless challenge. It's a mirror showing us what truly matters as we step into the real world. Today as young adults, you are preparing for your HS exams and beyond. But remember that success is not just measured by money, marks or positions. True success, it comes from what you build inside: your knowledge, your patience, and your values. Now I know that you are also facing isolation, because you have to study for long hours. You are appearing in a number of competitive exams along with your HS exams. So there's intense pressure, and sometimes there are doubts. We continue to raise doubts, self-doubts. But remember that every moment which you spend in self-improvement, it will bring you closer to real freedom. It will endow with the ability to think, choose, and live meaningfully. So let the bet remind you that temporary struggles, that can create lasting strength inside you. So these, 2 years of your life, these are very important years as far as your future career is concerned. These, you are facing lots of struggles, isolation, hours of study, peer pressure, self-doubts, doubts, aspersion cast on you by other people. But remember, temporary struggles can create lasting strength, and those who invest in their mind and soul, they will never truly lose. That's what the story teaches us. And I end our discussion on this note, wishing you all the best for your upcoming HS exams. Thank you. Stay focused, stay sincere, and believe the real reward lies not in what you earn, but in what you become. May you all be winners in life.